Hello everyone. Today's going to be just a great day. I'm really excited about today because I get to cover one of my all-time favorite guitar players. A guitar player who's been a tremendous influence on me, whose work I love and still listen to even today as much as I did back in the 80s. His name is David T Chastain, and he's an underground guitar legend. And today we're going to look at some solos, some of David's amazing solos and rhythms and riffs, and break them down note for note. And I'll have the link for the tablature in the description. So I'm really looking forward to this. David's an amazing player, and I haven't seen too many people cover him in depth on the internet. So today is going to be the day we start. So let's get started. I think David T Chastain's playing is just tremendous. He covers a broad range of styles. He has a huge discography. He really knows no boundaries. He loves to go in as many different directions as possible. Today we're going to kind of concentrate on his 80s kind of metal neoclassical period. David T Chastain is one of those players that came out in the mid-80s when the whole shred movement blew up. When you had Eddie Van Halen and Randy Rhoads hit the scene, and then followed by the tremendous impact of Yngwie Malmsteen. Right there was David T Chastain. He was actually one of the first guys on Shrapnel Records. One of the first guitar players that Mike Varney was interested in signing. Initially, I think that Mike wanted to do a solo project with him, but Mike introduced him to this amazing vocalist, I think the best vocalist, one of the best vocalists in heavy metal of all time, and that's Leather. She's just amazing. And they put out an album on Shrapnel in 1985 called Mystery of Illusion. It's just an incredible album. For me, the first time I heard Chastain was in 1986. And the album that I heard was CJSS, World Gone Mad. And this album just had a huge impact on me. It was just unbelievable in terms of my development as a guitar player and what it could do. He was so fluid, and he played the harmonic minor scales and all the minor scales that I loved. And he could zoom up and down the neck like Yngwie, but it didn't sound anything like Yngwie. It was more of a kind of fusiony, freer approach, which I'm going to talk about. So today I'm going to break down quite a few Chastain solos, songs and riffs, kind of analyze them, and I'll have the tablature for all this available. And it's going to be a lot of fun. I do not see a lot of videos breaking down Chastain's style on the internet here, and I believe it's because it's hard. David's phrasing and playing is very unique, but I'm going to try my best today to capture some of that David T Chastain vibe and break down some of the solos note for note. I love the song No Man's Land. It's just a killer classic metal track. CJSS used to play down in Cincinnati all the time in the 80s at this club called Bogart's, and they would sell it out, drawing 1,000 people or more to every gig. Just a really amazing following they developed. And they released a concert from that. It's available on Leviathan Records YouTube channel. So if you just type in Leviathan on YouTube here, David T Chastain Leviathan, it should come up. And I really recommend everyone subscribe to that, because if you're a fan of great high-tech guitar, 80s shred, 80s metal, great songs, just hard rock or great guitar playing, you really need to be subscribed to the Leviathan Records channel, because it's like a time capsule of that whole period. You can just feel the excitement in the air of being a guitar player in the metal world at that time and being a shredder. So if you haven't checked his channel out, please go and subscribe. I really would love everyone who watches my channel to go subscribe to Leviathan Records if you can. And the version of No Man's Land that we're going to look at, like I mentioned, is from that Bogart's concert that they did in 1986. So let's check out the solo. I'm going to take it from kind of a breakdown, the middle solo. This is kind of like the second solo, and then we'll analyze it. So let's check it out. solo from No Man's Land's always been one of my favorite solos. When I first heard the World Gone Mad album, that solo just blew me away. I was really into Yngwie at the time, and Yngwie would do these incredible descending and ascending scales that just blew everyone's mind back then. And David was really the next guy that I heard do that. But it sounded different. It didn't have the same quality as Yngwie. It was much more legato kind of. And I'm not sure if David did more picking than I'm doing. I'm kind of hammering these. He might have did kind of a down-up hammer thing. Or down-up pull-off. I'm not sure exactly how I did it. I chose just to hammer it. And what I'm playing there is very similar. The note choice in this is very similar to Black Star, in that it's kind of a D minor scale, but then you have the natural seventh added, the harmonic minor note. So you have the minor seven and the natural seven, which a lot of guys did back in the day. So you can think of it as a harmonic minor scale with the minor seven added, I guess, is kind of how I would think of it. Or the Aeolian scale with a natural seventh added. But anyway, it gets a great sound, and it keeps everything 3 notes per string. And he's running 16th notes here, and it sounds like this. Part is really cool, and you can hear some of that fusion elements. What he's doing is he's playing groups of 7 at 16th notes, so it's kind of flowing across the bar. Is really cool, like this. Slow, that's. So, like, if you were to think where the downbeat is, it starts out on the first note. Then, with the second grouping, it's on the second note. Then, with the next grouping, the downbeat's on the third note. And then, so you get. The next part is made up of ascending and descending 4s, which at the time Yngwie was doing a lot of, but so were players like Al Di Meola, Michael Schenker, a lot of different players were. David's approach sounds totally different to all those players, and David's a really unique player, and really doesn't sound like anyone else to my ears. I used to compare him a lot to and call him the American Yngwie, but to me that was ridiculous. David didn't sound anything like Yngwie to me, even though he maybe played similar scales, played fast, and kind of played metal, but there wasn't a whole lot of similarities in terms of actually what they were playing and their phrasing. But let me play this part for you. I really dig this part. It's really a lot of fun to play. It's really cool. And it's challenging to get that up to speed for sure. And David really, his articulation's great. He's really synchronized on that. Just amazing. That Bogart video from 1986 of CJSS that's on Leviathan Records. Subscribe if you can. It's really an amazing concert. Then he just runs descending 4s straight down like this. Then he ends with a D minor major 7 arpeggio to a D5 chord. Just killer stuff. The whole song is just killer. I love the chords and riffs to that song also. It's a great track. Great solo. The next track I picked to look at comes from one of my favorite instrumental albums of all time. It's the incredible Instrumental Variations. This album just means so much to me. I just love this album. Every track on it is perfect. And as far as I'm concerned, this album is one of the best instrumental albums of that period in hard rock and heavy metal. You put it with Rising Force, Edge of Insanity, and Mind's Eye. And it fits right there. It's as good as anything released during that period, as far as I'm concerned, song-wise and playing-wise. I just love Chastain's playing on this, and the songwriting is just killer. The song I picked to look at off this album is the incredible Now or Never, and it's definitely one of my favorite David T Chastain songs ever. It has the incredible keyboard opening into these really amazing glissando, kind of double pick sliding around, descending harmonic minor runs that really only David could do. The part that I thought would be cool to look at is the part I always loved was that solo after the chords kicked in and the main melody with some of the chords. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of check it out and analyze that a little bit and see what he was doing. So here we go. That solo is just incredible. If we were to analyze some of that, you could hear how musical David is with the phrasing, you know, the way he's playing with the rhythm, the note choice. He's using a lot of really cool arpeggios, but not just in a shred way, almost in a, like I said, a jazz fusion kind of way applied to neoclassical metal. The actual intro to the solo, he's using the bar. It sounds like he's dipping. I'm just sliding because I don't have a bar on this old Aria Pro 2, but it goes kind of into an E minor chord, arpeggio. Then he does a really cool phrase where he goes, where he's kind of playing off a B major again. So we get killer E harmonic minor run there. An ascending diminished arpeggio. these really killer pedal tones. I just love these. And that's from E harmonic minor. He's phrasing a lot of quarter note triplets or triplets, depending where you're tapping your foot. And then he plays this really cool ascending diminished arpeggio where he starts out with 16th notes and throws in a 16th note triplet in there, like. Just awesome stuff. I just love that phrase. Then he plays another run where he starts out with the diminished arpeggio. This goes into the main thing. It's just killer. Let me play that again for you. Into the main melody, just amazing stuff. Instrumental variations, I can't say enough about it. The next solo is one of my all-time favorite solos. It comes from the amazing Praise Aloud album by CJSS. And the song is called Thunder and Lightning. And the first solo in that song always stuck out. It's just so memorable with so much feeling and so much going on that it's always been one of my favorite solos of all time. And I think I remember reading in Guitar for the Practicing Musician, probably back in 87 or 88, that David mentioned that that was one of his favorites also. So I thought this would be a great place to start. So I'm going to play it for you, and then we'll talk a little bit about what David's doing. I just love that solo, and I'm choosing to play these solos without the backing tracks because I really want you to hear the melodicism of the solos and how he's hitting target notes, and the solos speak for themselves. They don't need the backing tracks. All sorts of cool rhythms going on there, just amazing stuff. One of my all-time favorite solos. Looking at it, he's playing a progression starting out just kind of a minor progression in the key of F sharp minor. He switches to A minor. And cycles through that. So if you look at it, it's like a minor progression, F sharp minor, and then a minor third higher, he plays A minor. And that minor third modulation, or key change really is something that happens a lot in fusion music, especially in the 70s. And if you listen to that, you can definitely hear the fusion vibe on that. David loved bands like Return to Forever. He loved McLaughlin, John McLaughlin. He was really into Alan Holdsworth. You know, that whole approach. And really, David's playing is kind of coming from that fusion-y approach. Even when he plays neoclassical metal, he still kind of has that approach. This solo really doesn't have any neoclassical qualities, I don't think. I hear more of a kind of a fusion-y thing going on. That's just one example of all sorts of cool phrasing in this song. And just the phrasing itself, when I was transcribing it and writing it out in notation, and I look back at just the rhythms, they were totally in beat, totally in the pocket, but they weren't on the beat. He was playing around the beat in the cracks, and I love that. And that's one of the things I love about David's playing. He has just amazing fluid phrasing, especially in a metal context. Just a tremendous solo. Let's kind of break it down slow and you can hear some of the phrasing. All sorts of stuff going on there. Really nice key change. When he switches from the F sharp minor to the A minor. Just great playing and a great solo. One of my favorites of all time. The next song I picked to go over is from the album For Those Who Dare. And it's the title track, For Those Who Dare. I just love this rhythm in this song. I just think it's one of Chastain's best songs. And I'm going to play the third solo. I love the third solo. I love all the solos in this song, but the third one's really snaky and cool. So let's check it out. Just a killer track, a killer song, and a killer solo. The original version of this album came out in 1990 on Roadrunner Records, and along with Leviathan, I think they had a little partnership there. Recently, Die Bomb Records released a reissue of this. It comes with a killer booklet, 2 bonus tracks, and the original mix that Chastain preferred. I think it just sounds amazing. I think it was done by Steve Fontano. I think that's how you say his name. This guy worked with Macalpine, Vinnie Moore, all those at the Prairie Sun Studios up in California, I believe. But this album just sounds amazing. if you can, check out the Dive Bomb reissue of it. So basically, this song's in A harmonic minor, but he kind of throws that sharp 4 in there to get a little bit of that Hungarian gypsy minor sound. And that happens in the chords, so kind of pedaling off the A. Really cool rhythm. He does a little kind of, I'm tapping here, so it's like and 4 and starts the song out with this cool little kind of 4/16 notes, lands on the root, and then lands on the natural 7, the harmonic minor notes. You get kind of a cool little thing. And then he plays kind of an A minor arpeggio and kind of throws the flatted 6 in there, so you get, and then kind of a diminishing triads there. Or diminished 7. Really nice sound. I really like that part. With the bottom 2 strings open, a rush kind of thing almost there. I think they do it F sharp, but he does it here. And then you're going to play a D kind of 5 chord, and then G sharp. So that part sounds like this. Really cool. Then he goes into this cool riff. Then he goes back to the little intro thing into this really cool solo. Solo has a lot of interesting things going on there. First of all, his phrasing's killer. Weaves in and out between like 8th notes and quarter note triplets. I'm feeling the rhythm to the solo here. That's where I'm tapping my foot. And then he goes into this kind of really cool A minor arpeggio where he's changing the top note around the harmonic minor scale. Kind of tricky is you gotta jump and hit those notes. The really cool thing with David is he told me he never sat down and learned solos by other people. You know, he played in cover bands. If it was a really kind of a melodic thing that had to be in the song, he said he'd play it. But generally, he just improvised and did his own thing. And there's a lot to be said. You can tell David's style really comes from that era of improvisation. It's kind of creating music on the spur of the moment. Dave has always been a practicer. He used to talk about how he practiced at least an hour for years until it got broken during a snowstorm and he got locked in a motel room without his guitar. I think is how the story goes. But David played music. Initially, he said he learned how to play it by jamming with friends. So I imagine he would learn some scales and just jam those scales and try to make music playing with other people. I know he played in some progressive bands where they do like 11-minute songs with a lot of solos and everything. And then in 1975, he moved to Cincinnati because he liked the music scene. He was actually from Georgia. And he started the band Spike with some guys, or joined them, not sure exactly how they formed. But he played with them for a number of years. He appeared in Mike Varney's Spotlight column. And that's where I first really heard of David T Chastain. It was the Randy Rhoads issue. I was a huge Randy Rhoads fan, and Randy had died in March. And that fall, they released a special tribute to Randy Rhoads. And in Mike Varney's Spotlight column, there was David T Chastain. And I remember reading all about him. He said he was from Cincinnati and his influences. And it stayed on my radar until I was thumbing through Guitar Player magazine, and there was an ad for Shrapnel Records. And it was for Mystery of Illusion. They talked about this incredible guitar player on it, David T Chastain. Well, I just had to go out and get it, but I couldn't find it locally. But I did find CJSS, and the rest is history. I've just been the biggest David T Chastain fan there is. I buy everything by David T Chastain. I just love his playing so much. I thought I would talk a little bit about some of his releases, and maybe go through his discography now. So the albums he released with CJSS are World Gone Mad. This is the amazing Dive Bomb reissue. Praise the Loud, just two amazing albums. And then around 2000, they released this follow-up, Kings of the World, which I think is largely made up of demos that they recorded during the period of World Gone Mad and Praise the Loud. They just kind of updated them. A lot of great songs on here. This is a really solid album also. And then around 2000, or late 90s, early 2000s, he released this 2-for-1, where you have both of the CJSS albums, World Gone Mad and Praise the Loud, in one. So that's the CJSS collection I have. And then he also released a lot of the demo stuff online through his Diginet Music. Just amazing stuff also. I have all that. So the first Chastain album ever released was the amazing Mystery of Illusion with Leather on vocals, Fred Coury from Cinderella's on drums, Mike Skimmerhorn on bass, and David T Chastain on guitar. An incredible album, just one of my favorite albums ever. You have the incredible Black Knight, just a phenomenal song. I love the doom riff of the Night of the Gods, just amazing. Just a killer album. I love this album. If you haven't heard this and you're a fan of metal or killer guitar from the 80s, it's a must-own. You must have this one. They followed that up with the equally incredible Ruler of the Wasteland. I think this is one of Dave and Leather's favorite albums. The title track's killer. It has the amazing Angel Mercy that Hammerfall covered. Children of Eden is on here. Living in a Dream World. There Will Be Justice. Just a great album. There's a cool photo of the Red Kramer Pacer special that David used to play. And then after that, they released the 7th of Never. I have it around here somewhere, right here. I got this on vinyl when it first came out. This album, Dave said, is his most shredding album, and I have to agree. The songs on here are killer. The title track's amazing. The riff in that is just amazing. Just a solid album. I love everything on this album. The Wicked Are Restless is another favorite one of mine off this album. They followed that up with the incredible Voice of the Cult. And every song on this one's great. I love Chains of Love. I love that riff in Fortune Teller. Just amazing stuff. This is a great album. I love the production on this one. It might be my favorite Chastain album sound-wise. I love the way leather sounds, and David's guitar is just killer. And the whole band sounds awesome on it. Definitely a classic. Then they followed that up with For Those Who Dare, which we talked about, the original version and the reissue, both incredible. So after For Those Who Dare, Chastain kind of took a hiatus, the band Chastain. David released some really killer instrumental stuff, which I'll talk about in a minute here. But when he got the band back together, I think initially this album, Sick Society, was supposed to be kind of a solo thing. David was singing some of the tracks. But then he found this amazing singer named Kate French, and they recorded this album. This is a different kind of album for Chastain. There's not as many solos. It's very streamlined. Some great songs on here. He put this one out in 1995. Then he followed that up with In Dementia, and I know this is one of David's favorite albums, and it just has some great tracks. Human Sacrifice is on here, Tongue, and Dementia. Desperately is a great track. I love the guitar solo in it. Just an all-around great album if you haven't heard it. And then they followed that up with In an Outrage in the early 2000s, 2004 I think. Another album full of great songs. Very different than the Leather era, I think. The music's a lot different. It's more streamlined, not as complex riff-wise, I don't think. More aggressive, but great. And Dave played some great solos on it. I really like this era also. And then around 2012, 2013, Leather and Dave got back together and they recorded the incredible Surrender to No One of my favorite Chastain albums. I just love this album. Stand and Fight, Called the Wild, I Am Sin, Evil Waits Us. Just every track on here is great. The production's great. David plays some great solos. Just an amazing album. If you haven't heard the later Chastain, definitely get this one. In fact, there's a compilation called 1321 that includes the best tracks from this and the one I'll talk about in a minute, kind of combined together in one album. But if you can find this, definitely get this. Surrender to No One. It's just amazing. And then Dave released Surrender to No One Uncut, which is kind of a producer's version, like a director's cut of Surrender to No One. Just another solid, great album, kind of little variations on the original. He does some variations of it. Then they released the incredible We Bleed Metal. Great, solid Chastain album. The title track's an instant classic. Against the Gods, another great one. Against All the Gods. Evolution of Terror is killer. I love Secrets. All Hail the King was the first single. Just a great track. Great, super great follow-up. And then Dave went in and re-recorded all the guitars on with just one track, like a live kind of album. And no guitar part was duplicated. So this is We Bleed Metal 17. So you have the same melodies, vocal-wise and rhythms, but totally different guitars. Just amazing. It's a great album too. Big fat production on it. Really great stuff. So that's the Chastain era. All just solid and amazing albums. And then we have the instrumental David T Chastain solo albums. The incredible Instrumental Variations was his first, recorded in 1987. Just a classic. Just every song on here is perfect. We followed that up with the amazing Within the Heat. I'm actually wearing the shirt. I love this album also. Excursions into Reality is just amazing. There's a nice mix between neoclassical and this one, some fusion stuff, a little funky kind of groove in one of the songs. Kind of a Macalpine, almost kind of acoustic song with some nice ballads. Really just another outstanding instrumental album from David. And he followed that up with this one, Elegant Seduction. Now, Elegant Seductions, you could really start to hear the fusion elements come in there, like with this title track, Elegant Seduction. Schizophrenia is another great one. Pompous Rompus is a really nice neoclassical one. You got some heavy stuff on here. Just a really great album. This album sounds amazing. This might be some of his best guitar tones captured on tape. Really fluid, solid playing. You could hear his style changing and definitely hear the Holsworth influence creeping in there big time. Then he followed that up with the All Out kind of fusion album. This album really flew under the radar for a lot of people, but there's some tracks on here that I think are his best ever. Just a great album full of melodic guitar playing, very legato playing. He's very legato on this. Watching Time Go By is one of my favorite Chastain songs. The writing on it's incredible. The chord progressions of playing, the melodies, just amazing. There's so many great songs on this one. I really enjoy this one. This is a great driving record. Throw it on when you're going for a long drive. And his guitar tone, again, is just amazing on this album. Just super killer guitar tone. He used lab amps back then. And when everyone else was using tube amps, he used solid state. And I love his tone on this. And now I'm kind of using more solid state. As I get older, I don't need to crank the amp up to get that tube distortion. I just want a nice sound. So I'm really finding a lot of inspiration from listening to the old Chastain solid state lab amp recordings. Great stuff. Really cool. And then this one really flew under the radar. And this is an amazing album. This kind of sums up a lot of his career. You have the neoclassical stuff, some of the jammy stuff he did later, some of the fusion stuff, even a little blues. I tell you, the song Demonic Harmonic Justice, Lullaby, could be right on David T Chastain's Instrumental Variations. I love that. In one of my videos, I played the intro solo to that. It's killer. Countdown to Infinity could be right there with For Those Who Dare. A lot of great songs, great stuff. So that's just some of David's releases. He also did a lot of really cool improvisational stuff that I have around here somewhere, but I just kind of grabbed these kind of round out the video. I still have a lot of the old press from David stuff. I remember anything with Chastain I'd buy. This magazine was really cool. Is Metal, I think it was called, I forget, but it has a really cool article on David. As that photo I showed earlier, that really cool photo. Always loved that photo of David kind of showing his hand spread there. It's killer. When I was a young player, I thought that's what I want to do, spread my hand like that. This is another great article. This is where I first really, read about David in Guitar Player magazine. That wasn't the Spotlight column. I don't know if you can see it there. This is around I think it was around Praise the Loud, Ruler of the Wasteland period. I don't know, I wrote some stuff up here. I don't know what I was doing, but really cool. You can see him with the Kramer Pacer. And then he talks about, what he used. Back then he used BC Rich, but his main guitar was a Kramer Pacer. He used DiMarzio pickups into the Gibson Lab Series amp that I talked about. He said he practiced with the metronome to help build up speed. He tried to attack with the whammy bar a little differently than a lot of people, and he always used it to go down. He very seldom pulled up on it because he said it broke strings, and I always go down with mine too when I have one on. I don't do the floating thing. He talked about some of his albums. He said he just really needs to get hot. He does a lot of double picking and pull-offs, and he consistently uses up and down strokes. So he's an alternate picker for the most part, with the exception of some of the sweeps. But a really cool article there from 1987. Really cool. And then you got this article here. This is around the time of Within the Heat. Stevie Ray on the cover. God bless Stevie Ray. Sure miss his playing. Miss hearing him. But this is another great article where he talks about, let me find it here, Within the Heat. And it's got some pretty cool photos. Here we go. The Alloys of Metal. And a great article. And the writer, Jello Lena, I think is his name, talks about how he fits right in with the Macalpines and Vinnie Moores of the era. But David tells him, I was influenced by the fusion guys, as well as the neoclassical guys. So David really loved Yngwie, he loved Tony Macalpine, Vinnie Moore, but he grew up playing all these different styles, this fusion, blues, Allman Brothers. He was into a lot of different stuff. So his playing wasn't one-dimensional. So anyway, this is my special in-depth with David T Chastain. I'll be doing these from time to time. I want to focus on players like David, who I think really deserve more recognition, or just maybe there's a whole generation that grew up hearing them that need to rediscover them. And if you haven't listened to David in a while, I think you need to go to his website, Leviathan Records. I think it's leviathanrecords.com, and go subscribe to his YouTube page and Amazon. You can stream all sorts of cool stuff on there. You can buy some really cool CD FLAC file stuff. His website's great. You can get these shirts. So I'm a fanboy for David T Chastain. I just love his playing, and he's a big influence, and I just want to thank him for all the great music over the years, and I really had fun doing this. And until next time, thanks for hanging out with me, and have fun picking.